We'll
Oh,
figure it
you
out.
always did
All right,
it.
here we go. I think we're live.
Good morning, everybody. It's Wednesday, June 23rd. Well, there's the music, kind of. Good morning, everybody. We're having some technical difficulties here, but this is Coffee and Pan Dulce, and let's get this started, Christian.
Yes, good morning, Jenny. Thank you for, I think the beginning of our show, if we like spliced all the starts of our show, it would be really a funny like video.
Oh, that'd be an incredible YouTube video of painful starts by the coffee show.
That's right.
We've had quite a few, I call them almost like DOAs, dead on arrivals. We're just kind of chatting and the show's starting. We're broadcasting. Like, oh yeah, we got to say something. June, but it is Wednesday, June 23rd, and it's almost the end of Pride Month. And let's get this started.
All right. Well, excuse me. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Coffee and Pan Dulce. I'm Christian County, one of your co-hosts, along with Mama Ruth, who is not with us today, Jenny-Jaymes Gunn, Barbara Bacon, Stephen DeFiore, and sometimes Rafael Prieto, a Charlotte journalist as well. So we want to welcome you. As Jenny said, today is June 23rd. It's amazing how fast the month is going by. It's what, a week and a little over 10 days or so for July 4th. Yeah, so Pride Month is almost over. We want to thank everyone who's joining us on Facebook Live, but also those who join us on YouTube and Facebook later. Like almost all of our shows, people watch us after. So we want to thank you for doing that. Our Pride show is now up to 3,000 views. Our gun show continues to rise at 7,200 views. So people, thank you for watching this little community show. So today's topic is Vote 2022, how to beat a GOP QAnon congressperson for just under 500,000 or less. It's a really long topic. It was supposed to be kind of humorous, and we're going to take a lighthearted stab of telling or helping candidates who decide to enter the race in 2022 on how to win, because they have not, or I have not either. So, we're gonna add some things. So before we do that, let's go around the Brady Bunch screen, introduce yourself and your imaginary button. It gives me time to share us on the other platforms. Brady Bunch screen is very easy today. Jenny and Barbara.
Yeah. So I'll go first.
You go first, Jenny. And Jenny, talk slow. You know how it is. We only have 3 people on.
Oh, no. Yeah.
Whoa.
Hi, I am Jenny-Jaymes Gunn, and I'm just kidding. I represent the National Organization of Women Charlotte and also Charlotte Pride. So I do several things for Charlotte Pride. Coordinator-wise, we have a great Pride season coming up. As many know, if they live in this greater Charlotte area or been to Charlotte Pride, we typically do our Pride event in August. This year we will start in August, but we'll have events in August, September, October, and November to keep them a cozy size, a manageable size, to be COVID conscious, but still have fun, still be able to enjoy it, and be more for people here in the Carolinas rather than bringing in large, huge crowds from all over the country, and be manageable. And so it's going to be a lot of fun. It will be different, but I'm excited nonetheless. But yes, happy Pride Month. Barbara?
Hi, good morning. I'm Barb Bacon. I'm going to change my title. I'm into more than just healthcare lately, advocate here in South Charlotte. And my buttons have changed. I think with the Supreme Court approving or letting the ACA stay in place as it is, Medicare for All has taken a back seat from the people that I interact with. And I don't know where that's going, but so I'm just gonna say healthcare for all. I'm a strong advocate of that. I have several family members that lost their jobs and still don't have healthcare, but anyway, and I'm actually helping them with that. And gun violence, again, I watched on 2 different shows last evening, the percentage increase in gun violence in New York, Chicago, and I forget, Los Angeles, is like over 50%. And they really can't pinpoint why, but that is in the New York mayoral primaries that are going on right now. Yeah. Crime is #1. So gun violence, and those are my two top ones.
Excellent. Thank you, Barbara. And just to let you know, the month of July, we're going to have a special month, whereas all of us here, all of the co-hosts, including Mama Ruth, we're all going to take a show and we'll be talking about a topic, and Barbara has volunteered to take one of the shows. We'll tell you what date that is and the topic. Maybe that might be the topic, or whatever she decides, but it will be all about the host instead of me, which everyone is just up and jumping up right now. So I can tell, I'm looking at Jenny's face. And Jenny's like, what do I say? He's so right.
I had a smart comment, but
yes.
For the sake of time, I'm not gonna say what I was gonna say. But anyway.
Yeah, that's right. All right. So and I'm remembering, even without Mama Ruth and Barbara and Jenny letting me do this, let's salute to Coffee and Pan Dulce. If you have something, please salute to your neighbors. I'm still drinking my oat milk, but I'm adding coffee because there was a study that came out yesterday that said that those who drink coffee have a less likely chance, like a 46% less likely chance of suffering from any liver disease or liver disorder. So I thought that was very interesting. And yeah, I thought it was very interesting. So let's also, our supplier, I have to stop saying sponsor, our Pan Dulce supplier, we want to thank Manolo's Bakery, Manolo on Central Avenue. Barbara, I have your big one there. Yes, I have it there. Thank you, Manolo's Bakery on Central Avenue here in Charlotte, North Carolina. They are on Central Avenue. Please support your Black and brown businesses during this global pandemic as we exit, but all small businesses as well. There was a small business that closed last week. I think it was the Price's Chicken.
The Chicken King.
Yes.
59 years in business.
That's incredible. I never went.
I didn't either. I've I don't know if it was just
once.
I think it was because usually when I'm in South End, I'm going somewhere specific, like a drag show or a meeting, or so I have intentionality when I'm going there, to where I've passed by it a million times. It just never stopped in.
Yeah.
But I mean, it is fried chicken and I'm vegan. So,
yes.
I'm probably not, I don't go and
maybe for the iced tea or just
Popeyes or anything. And the second thing I heard is that, I think, not to bash them or anything, they had a lot of really outdated business methods. So they didn't take credit cards, which that was the first sign that, maybe they've been around for 59 years. So, obviously I think some of it was probably attrition. Some of it probably was with, so many businesses going out of business last year because of COVID and the pressures, financial pressures of running a business during a pandemic. I think they were just a casualty of probably being in business in a long time and the world passing them by. And the crush of COVID saying, either pivot and adapt to the modern era and pay livable wages and do the things you're supposed to do. And I said it last year, COVID's going to be the great filter. It's going to filter out a lot of the stuff we don't need. And it's going to make people change or go bye-bye. I mean,
Jenny, I thought about you and I thought of Stephen when that news story came out last week or whenever it was, because they closed on Saturday, but I think it came out Wednesday that they announced it, and then Thursday, Friday, and Saturday was their last day. But I thought about you.
Was their last day.
Yeah, so I thought about you and I thought about Stephen because, in one breath, yes, I am sorry to see a business that's been in business that long. But then the free market capitalist side of me said, well, maybe they should, maybe that was the free market saying, I'm sorry, you didn't pivot during COVID-19. I agree. I mean, they wouldn't, because they blamed their closing, or one of the reasons they were closing, on labor shortage, shortage of change, like coins, shortage of coins. And of course, no business is going to say we mismanaged us the last 2 years, so we're going under. Sure. Yeah, right.
I mean, we saw this in the travel business. So, Christian and I both have worked in the travel and hospitality industry. And I saw a lot of timeshare resorts and cruise lines go out of business after 9/11. And blaming it on 9/11. But truthfully, those businesses were struggling before 9/11. But 9/11 made it
easier
a
for
very fabulous, very easy peasy excuse to say, no mas, I'm done, you know, and walk away.
That's right.
And you know, and that's okay, whatever excuse that
Yeah.
you know they would have used, but truthfully, their methodology of their business was outdated. You didn't take credit cards, and it's 2021.
Yes.
Like every mom and pop Etsy shop, you know, that makes crafts takes credit cards. They even have financing now, you know, through Florida, you know.
Or the owner of it wasn't really going to say, well, you know, I know if I close down and I sell this land, I'm going to get $5 million for this property.
That's exactly what everybody said. Don't feel too sorry
that
for
wasn't lost
you
on
know
me
where that
either.
is.
The South End development has exploded so much.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure if I was a betting woman, I'm pretty sure they have a 7-figure, maybe even an 8-figure payday.
And they're not sharing with their employees. And it's not going to be shared with those employees. So.
No, and I can hear the cash register ringing when they get that big old fat check for that property, because that property's on Camden and it is prime,
that's
prime real estate.
That's right. So I mean, I think we were all kind of like, that was kind of like this. We were all kind of thinking that in the back of our head when they said, you know, they're closing their historic South End. They're one of the few old buildings still left. And of course, because we all live in this area, we're all like, ching, we all know exactly what we're thinking. So anywho.
But if I had that business for 59 years and somebody brought me a big old sack of money, you know what my answer would be?
What?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, what
talk about it. Here's the big old check.
What would you? Hey, Barbara. Retire. Yeah, Barbara. What would you do? Would you take the check?
I'd take the money. Oh yeah.
And that's why we love you, Barbara. Like there's not sentimental building or $8 million or whatever the money.
You got that kind of money coming your way. No.
Yeah, well, so we are totally off topic. So let's go back because we're eating into our current affairs. So we talk about 3 current affairs every show, the first 15 minutes of every show.
Maybe that should be one of them.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, yeah, we should have been one of them. But before the show, actually, we went on air. We narrowed it down to these 3. So the three, you can let us know if you want to talk about it or not talk about it. The variant D, the CDC is warning people about the variant D of the coronavirus. It's the variant D of the variant of the coronavirus, how that is mutating, and that is the fastest growing in America, and why we should be concerned about it. In Texas, the Texas governor, Greg Abbott, and the lieutenant governor, Dan Patrick, are still insistent on building the wall. And interestingly, they're using the same verbiage about this invasion from the border. They're using the same verbiage that the gunman, the white supremacist who killed 19 people in El Paso, I think it was 2 years ago, he used the same verbiage. The reason he killed these Mexicans or these people, because he said they were invading Texas. And so there's an outrage in Texas because they're using that exact same verbiage, and in a state that is a majority Latino. So it's interesting. And then also, it should have happened already this morning at 10 o'clock. Governor Cooper, or not Governor Cooper, but our state is drawing the first $1 million lottery, I guess. If you have taken the coronavirus COVID vaccination, you are automatically entered. And so someone will be winning $1 million. I think they pool it today, but it takes maybe a day or 2 to actually confirm the person's name. So hopefully we'll be finding out who won that $1 million. So if you have the vaccination, live in North Carolina, you have automatically entered. If you don't, you still have a chance to enter it, and you get 2 entries, I think, after today. So
if you took 2 shots, you get 2 entries. If you did the J&J, you get 1 entry.
So I'm hoping that we'll find out. So anyway, let's go around the Brady Bunch screen. Who wants to touch those topics first?
I'll go through first.
Okay.
The lottery thing I think is brilliant, because not only are they offering $1 million drawing, but for people that took the vaccination that were under the age of majority, they're offering a scholarship. So because they can't offer them a cash prize, that's illegal. But they do get, I believe it's $150,000 cash scholarship, which is incredible. Great. That's incredible. That could guarantee somebody an education. Mm-hmm. I just think we should have cash scholarship lotteries is a normal practice anyway. After this, all this is done, maybe this would be one of our solutions. The border wall thing is very insanely, the verbiage that the governor and lieutenant governor, which is no shock, they've trumpeted bigoted positions before, but this one is just absolutely no holds barred, disgustingly racist. It is dripping of Zionistic, insane, xenophobic, just the foreigners are coming type crap. If anybody that's lived in South Texas or lived in Texas in general, but especially when you've lived close to the border like myself, the migration back and forth both ways across that border is normal and natural.
Exactly.
We do not see this fight in Europe. Migration happens in Europe, the continental part of Europe, all the damn time. And you don't see France talking about Italy coming over the border or Spain or anything. It's just a normal, people ride under the channel, the British, the English channel, and the little, they call it the channel, and ride the train across there like they're going from New Jersey to New York. Somehow, all of a sudden, after hundreds of years of open trade with Mexico and border crossings, all of a sudden Republicans are scared to death. And this comes down to racism. It's stupid.
Of course it does.
It's ignorant. It's because it's brown people coming across. That also there's a lot of high wealth people that come across. You know, not every Mexican is broke.
Oh my goodness gracious, Jenny! Go ahead, Jenny. I'm sorry.
For the people that live further away from Mexico, their image of Mexican nationals, I guess, is poor people swimming across the border. Let me tell you something. There is a lot of wealthy, well-to-do, highly educated. My image of Mexican nationals is people driving big old sport utilities, spending tons of money at our malls and our outlet malls in South Texas, and having a good time, being a great guest in this country. That's my image of them. So that's who I know. And I think this whole racist, let's build a wall. Let me tell you something. Walls keep you in too. If you jackasses that want a wall, you realize the wall in East Berlin kept those East Berliners in East Berlin against their will. So destroying your freedom, y'all are a bunch of dumb Fs. Anyway, walls are stupid. Tear down the wall, Mr. Gorbachev. Let's get on with history. As far as the COVID-19, get your damn shot. The shot's free. You can get entered into the lottery if you're in North Carolina. Most of the states are having a lottery now. I think it's the right thing to do. If you get COVID because you didn't get your shot and you had access to it, as many famous comedian said, can't fix stupid. That's all I got to say.
There isn't a vaccine for stupid either.
Oh, I wish they did. I could make a lot of money producing that.
Okay.
Well, all right. You know, there is a vaccine. It's called Get Educated.
Get educated.
And really, if you have a legitimate resistance against the vaccine, then a legitimate resistance would mean you would go to a pharmacist. You go to a family doctor, an actual degreed deal. Don't talk to your neighbor's dog about this, but actually talk to a degreed professional. As Barbara can touch on this, being, worked into the medical and pharmaceutical industry, talk to a friggin' professional that distributes that and just say, what is your thoughts? That's what they would go for.
All right, Jenny, thank you so much. And Barbara, you want to touch on any of those?
I'll start with the variant, since that's where Jenny left off. And that is an area that Art laughs at me for all my scientific reading all the time, but I don't care. That's what I used to do. So I live in a Republican neighborhood, and it's awkward now because of the vaccine. We try to have get-togethers, and several are not vaccinated and they don't intend to get vaccinated. And a lot of the people are elderly. So it's awkward now. And if we're going to be outside, I don't care. But I try to have pizza once a month. One couple showed up.
Wow.
That's terrible. But, the problem that I see, if they start approving the vaccines, several people that I know said, well, it's not approved. It's just for emergency use. And this isn't an emergency anymore. And I'll go, okay, that's not true. If you listen to the dialogue about the variant, look at the golfer that he was ahead by, I forget how many shots.
Yeah, he actually just won.
He won the U.S.
Yeah, he won the U.S. Open, yeah.
Karma, yes. But anyway, he had only had the vaccine for 4 or 5 days, but he got COVID, but it was very mild.
I think he only took the shot after he realized that he'd been around other people, and then he took the shot immediately. And so he only had one, and then he got tested. And then the second time he got tested, he tested positive. So,
right.
Yeah.
But, okay, so if we get the vaccines approved, there goes one excuse. The people that have had COVID before, they have antibodies. Yes, that's true, but they don't know how long it lasts. And when I try to explain to people, they're gonna want to test you to see, no, nobody's sticking another needle in my arm. It just gets to the point where I don't feel sorry for them anymore. If you're going to get it, you're going to get it now, because this variant is the most virulent thing we've seen yet. And if you listen to the doctor, as Art calls them, talking heads, they're scared. They're worried. Do we want to go backwards again from people that just absolutely refuse? The other violence that's going on is on airplanes.
Yeah.
Did you see the couple that the air marshals came in here at Charlotte Douglas and took this couple off because they actually accosted the flight attendants? It's like, what is going on? I know people are a little nuts from being COVID bound all this time, but to go to the other extreme, it's ridiculous. I can't remember the other topic.
The Texas governor or the $1 million drawing?
$1 million drawing, yay. I think that will diminish. I think more for younger people and older people. Middle people, another lottery, whatever. But I hope it helps to see the Ohio governor so hyped about it. I like him.
Yeah.
But they didn't do any follow-up to the winner there. So, and none of them can stay anonymous, which is interesting. So, and the wall, another Republican talking about a wall.
Yeah.
I don't even want to hear it. So, they just bigotry and racism, and I'm so done. Thank God for remotes.
Yeah, I agree.
Mute and remote. Change the channel or mute. I'm done.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. And me very quickly, so we can jump into our topic. The variant D. This is concerning to everyone. I know if we had Dr. B on the show, he would tell us why he's concerning. But one of the things that we have to explain, I don't even know. I'm kind of I'm just tired of explaining to dumb people about COVID. It's like if after all this time, after 600,000 deaths, after political upheaval here in America, after just craziness, and still having to explain to a normal adult, rational human being why COVID-19 is important to get vaccinated, or the variant D, it's exhausting. But unfortunately, we still have to do it. You know, the reason you get vaccinated is because if you do catch it again, which there's a chance you could, you're not going to go to the hospital. The CDC has announced that of everyone who's gone to the hospital, almost none of them have been vaccinated. And so that is one of the things that we know. And you could help us, those of us who are vaccinated and other people as well, you could help us keep that variant D from mutating. And so if you haven't had the vaccination and you catch COVID and you try to do like the natural immunity, your body is going to mutate it to a more dangerous variant, which is the variant D. And that's, so in a way, we have to be frank. unless you have, like Jenny said, unless you have a specific reason, like you're allergic to something or whatever the case may be, if you're just getting it because, well, people said it hasn't been tested or you're being a selfish person. Yeah. Because basically what you're saying is you're putting everyone in danger because of your selfishness. But one of the things I think we all know someone who hasn't gotten the vaccination. Those are usually people who have a history of selfishness. It's not just about this. It's been about something else. And so I don't think it's new that the people who aren't getting vaccinated, whether they want to use religious reasons or whatever, they're the same people who said, well, equality marriage was going to tear the family apart. They're the same people who said all these scary things. So that's that one. The Texas governor issue. I like what you said, Jenny. That was very interesting about the analogy you used about the Berlin Wall. That's going to lead into our next topic. As a Democrat, we need to use these symbols and these issues and let people know Texas is a majority Hispanic, kind of Latinx state. Many of them have voted Republican for the last decade since Reagan, or generation since Reagan. This is one of the silly errors that the Republican Party in Texas is doing. They are going to start to chip away their Latino support, because at the end of the day, you can only call someone, you can only belittle a group of individuals for so long before they start to say, I've had enough. An example, I called my mom last week jokingly about the power outages. And I said, Mom, I heard you're collecting fireflies. I think I told you that, Jenny. I heard you're collecting fireflies so you can read at night. And she said, oh, mijo, we're going to have power shortages again. And I said, but Mom, didn't y'all just go through that? Planting seeds. Didn't you just go through that during the winter storm? Yes, but apparently. And I said, Mom, your governor wants to spend $200 to $250 million on a border wall, and you can't even fix your electricity. I know, he's gotten crazy. And I said, well, Mom, why do you keep voting for him? You're right. We need to look for someone else. So this is how it happens. So I want to thank Governor Cooper and Lieutenant and Patrick, because this is chipping away those individuals. I do think it's going to have an effect in the next.
Well, and I think lesser politicians are trying to take notes from Trump.
Yes,
because they felt like Trump had a successful or a secret sauce formula. Mm-hmm. Now, here's the difference.
Yep.
This was the same way right after the Reagan era. So the Republican Party for a long time was searching for the next Reagan. There is not going to be another Reagan, because Reagan was Reagan. Just like Trump is Trump. But you're not going to have your next major presidential candidate in 2024 is, unless Trump runs again, you're not going to find another.
He's in jail. Sorry.
Yeah, or maybe the Russians will call their markers. Just saying.
Sure.
But you when you try to do the same tactics that somebody used that was successful. So Trump was successful in 2016,
sure,
in scaring people. But it was because of his very bombastic, Hitler-like personality.
Yes,
is why he got away with this. Another candidate, which the governor of Texas and lieutenant governor are up for re-election next year.
They want to turn into him. Yeah.
Using his tactics and using his talking points will not get them reelected, because
I don't think it will. Yep.
Governor Abbott is a very mealy-mouthed goofball, that I don't know how that jackass keeps getting
mealy-mouthed. That's a new one.
Mealy-mouthed goofball that I wouldn't trust to run a hot dog stand at a junior high football game.
That's right.
And I would put a junior high kid as supervisor over that jackass. And Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick is a religious nut job that has in for LGBT people. Yeah. And that guy, I don't trust a word this fool says.
Yeah, I think he's a closet queen. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, he's definitely a queen. He is a hardcore dramatic queen. And so, but the Republicans, whether they realize this or not, and this will lead us into our next subject,
yes,
which is our show topic. The Republicans are helping us
yes
take these elections.
Yes.
Because when they do stupid stuff like this, it really, if Texas is broke, first of all, for people that don't know, Texas has always got budget problems. They've had budget problems since I was in high school. Texas has always struggled with money. They make a lot of money. They spend a lot of money. Even
with low taxes. And that's the reason, is because the taxes are so low that they have to be offset by oil revenue and other things. And they're
that's not true, Christian. They have high taxes. They just don't have an income tax.
Oh, that's right.
Their property taxes, their sales taxes, and they have a high hotel motel tax.
Yep, that's true.
And so Texas, you can change the name to taxes. Actually, you can flip the vowels in that. It is a very heavily taxed state. That's a total misnomer. That is another Republican lie that's been said for decades. It has a very regressive tax code, and it has a very outdated tax code.
Hey Jenny,
but why they do that is because they want high wealth individuals to retire in Texas.
Yes,
and they know that high wealth, business owners that will move their businesses there, their small businesses there, won't prefer not to move to a state that has an income tax.
It's Jenny, you hit it right on the head. It's a bait and switch. It's a bait and switch because
every state has taxes.
Damn
it, there is a lie, like North Carolina is more expensive to live in South Carolina. Actually, if you put a pencil to the paper, the sales tax or the income tax here in North Carolina is not more expensive than all the miscellaneous taxes that are in South Carolina. If you actually put down a spreadsheet and analyze it, it's just, plus you'd have to live in South Carolina.
Property taxes are reasonable.
It's just like comparing Texas to Oklahoma and say, well, I live in Oklahoma, but because it's cheaper to live there. But you would have to live in Oklahoma.
Not very nice.
Come on. There's a reason why Texas doesn't slide into the Gulf.
We're going to lose everyone. We're going to lose all the 5 people who watch us from Oklahoma. So let's just six people last week. Jenny, you hit the nail right on the head, and let's go directly into our topic, because this is really what we're kind of going to be talking about.
Can I say one thing about Texas?
Yes, ma'am.
I was surprised when I lived in Texas for less than a year. When I bought my house, because I was a senior, the reduction in property taxes for seniors, it shocked me. You sure don't get that in North Carolina.
No, and that's kind of what, and I like the way Jenny had brought this up, because it's kind of like a bait and switch kind of thing, if you think about it. And we're going to talk about that. So let's talk about, Vote 2022 is coming up. And I know a lot of people aren't paying attention. Most people don't until probably a couple of months before elections. But those of us who are engaged in these things have been thinking about this since the last election finished. Now, the big question is, how do you beat these QAnon crazy GOP congresspersons who are they're not afraid to say they are Trump fans, they're QAnon supporters, they are many of them are white supremacists, have histories of them, and it's just, they just feel emboldened to run the way they do. And we're going to talk about just a couple of them. Marjorie Taylor Greene, who we'll talk about at the end of the show. Jenny and I are entering the 2022 Charlotte Royals rugby fundraising beer pong tournament. And our team name has changed from Kellyanne Pongway. And this year, our team name is going to be Marjorie Taylor Trash Queens. And so we are going to represent, and in this tournament, hopefully we'll win. We did very well last year, I believe, or one of the years when we did it. So Marjorie Taylor Greene is up for re-election. Of course, all Congress is up for re-election in 2022. I know some of the individuals that have announced they're going to be running against, at least as a Democrat, against her. Bathroom Dan Bishop here in Charlotte, North Carolina, is one of those supporters of a huge supporter of Trump. You would think that like they were dating or something. I mean, it's this weird man crush he's got on Dan Bishop, bathroom Dan Bishop. How do you run against him in 2022? Lou Gomer is in a different situation, but he's in East Texas. How can you beat someone as crazy as he is? And then, of course, I think is nice to look at, but he's a little crazy. Madison Cawthorn, is that his name? Representative
Cawthorn.
Madison Cawthorn, who is here in North Carolina. Yeah, and then the lady from Colorado, Lori Boebert,
yeah,
Lori Boebert. So let's just kind of talk about these individuals. So just to kind of give you a little history, I ran for Congress in 2016. I made the decision to run for Congress after not holding any office. I admittedly ran for in 2016, made the decision Labor Day weekend of 2015 is when I announced, but we've been thinking about it for a couple of months, especially since we didn't see anyone from our party stepping up to run against Robert Pittenger at the time. And our district was completely different district. So when I ran for office, one of the misnomers that I had was there was this big secret to running for office, not just office, but Congress. I realized one of the things that I realized is no one really knows. There's no perfect way to run for office. It's just a very unique situation. Some people think about it for a long time. There are some people who say, well, I've just decided to step up to the plate and run like Dan McCready said, well, I just woke up one day and made a decision to run. No one, in my view, wakes up and just decides to run for office.
So I have an interesting question about that.
Sure.
You know, as somebody like yourself that's run for office twice, actually, because you ran in 2016 and you ran in the primary in 2018, I believe. Mm-hmm. So you made that decision, a conscious decision to do that twice. Mm-hmm. How do you find it? Do you find it interesting when somebody, it's almost I think of religion when people say that, because I think it's almost like I was inspired by whatever, and the sunlight hit me on the face and the butt, and I decided to run for office. Just came to me like some kind of vision out of the Bible.
Yeah.
Like the burning bush told me to do it.
Exactly.
And so, you know, when I hear that, it always makes me cringe to go, oh boy, here we go.
Yes.
And obviously with Dan McCready, I was right.
Yeah.
But what goes into, or what did you think of? What was the process that made you file?
That's a great question.
What inspired you to do it?
Okay, so that's a great question, Jenny. And this is a question that I think people who watch us, and maybe if you're interested in maybe want to know what makes people think about when they run for office. The first time was very different. When we moved here, our family had moved here. I started to get involved in social justice things in my church and so forth. And I started to attend events, and I started to see individuals, and I started to see people who were running for office. And of course, there is a little bit of you that goes, they're running for office, you know, and you're like, it can't be that hard. You know, I mean, that's really kind of what you think. You think that's right. You know, they're running for office because you're really applying for a job, right? We talk about it all the time. Yep. And you go, well, I'm qualified to do that. I mean, what's the requirement to run for office? Be an American citizen and not have a felony. Be a certain age. Depends on what, that's really it. There's no, you have to, you know, have this, and that's why sometimes you get crazy individuals who run for office. So the first time I started to attend our then Representative Robert Pittenger's town hall meetings, and I realized when I attended his town hall meetings how completely anti-Obama he was. He was borderline racist, very, very, you know, derogatory, and just the things he said about President Obama. And I sat there going, and I was not, I was a Democrat, but I was not as passionate as I was today. And I thought, well, one of the reasons he's this way is because no one in the audience is standing up saying, excuse me, sir, please respect the fact that not everyone in here is a Republican. Some of us support our president. And as I went to all of his town hall meetings and I started to talk to people in this area, they said, well, he's that way because no one runs against him. And so I contacted our precinct chairperson. I've never been involved in a precinct. I contacted our precinct chairperson. They ignored me, as That's just the way it is. They didn't know who I was. And I said, well, I can see why they're not organized because they don't even care. So I started to get more involved. And at that whole summer, I really dug deep into it to see what does it take to run for office, how much it costs, all those kind of things. Got a hold of some people who run for office and asked, and I realized it's really just like, it's a checklist you follow. You do this, there's an organizational thing you need. And then once I realized, well, I think I can do that, and so then I made the decision, of course, after talking to my family, this is something I want to do, and of course the response was, what?
Are you out of your mind?
Yeah, I mean, what, you want to run for Congress? Because there's this misnomer that only certain people can run for certain, and really in reality, all American citizens should have the right to run for all. But unfortunately, the stack is against you if you're an average person. You have to have money, you have to have contacts. And then if you don't, people don't take you seriously. So when I announced the first time I was running, no one really knew who I was. And that worked for me because the people in the Democratic establishment didn't know who I was. And they were, who's Christian? Does he have money? What's going on? Who is he? Who is he? And so then no one really, there was all those questions. So that was the first time. So when I ran, because I said, if no one decides to run against Robert Pittenger, I will step up to the plate. I step up to the plate. And the reason was to keep him from spending his money against other candidates. And that was really the goal, because at the time we had so many Republicans who were running unopposed. And the goal was to run someone against them so they couldn't just raise money and spend it against Alma Adams or someone else.
Right. And the strange thing is and we'll focus on the Democrats because I am a Democrat, but I think it's a bizarro strategy here in Charlotte because we have the city races coming up. Some of them are going to be probably this fall. From what I understand, I believe that large races and the mayor is actually going to be this fall, and then the districts are going to be next spring, the way they're going to, because of the census.
Yeah.
That's one of the scenarios that may happen. And I think it's so bizarre. As of right now, nobody's planning on running against Ed Driggs and Tarek Bashari. And I'm like, those two guys could get beat. You could beat both of those.
Anyone can lose. Yep.
That a Democrat can beat both of those guys. And not that I have anything against either way.
Sure.
But I think letting Ed and Tarek run unopposed and just have them I think the Republicans should run somebody against every Democrat. I think steel sharpens steel.
Yep.
And when you don't run candidates in very important races like the city council of Charlotte, which is 15th largest city in the United States, I think it's a huge mistake. I think both parties, but especially the Democrats, because I'm part of that party, so I have a say. I think the Democrats leaving two open races it's beyond me, so I don't understand something as important as Congress.
Sure,
a House of Representatives to run somebody, recruit somebody.
Jenny, it has changed, but it did not take me very long when I decided to run in 2015. When I made the announcement to run in the 2016, it did not take me very long to understand the North Carolina Democratic Party is not the brightest, and they're not the brightest individuals that members of that party, at least at that time. Our state chairperson at the time and the new one that was elected, they were not, their skill set was not there to manage an organization. They were just popular with maybe other individuals. And you need in any organization a person who has the skill set to organize, to mentor, to lead. And those in North Carolina has never, maybe they've had it in the past, little individuals, but traditionally the person who is the state chairperson is not elected because they were a great business person or a great leader. I mean, you had our last chairperson, Goodwin, who was the chairperson before the current one, was only there because he lost his state insurance race. why would you want someone who lost their race to be your state chairperson?
Right.
But and the reason that they voted for him, or we, because I was on the SEC, the reason they voted for him was because they figured it would help them with the rural voters, as if though rural voters don't want to win. I mean,
and the most delicious part of that is, okay, you got this guy that just got beat like he stole something.
Yes.
And your consolation prize is the guy that lost the statewide race. Let's go ahead and make him the leader of the party and the chief organizer.
Okay, Jenny, but not only that, he was a white guy in a party that is base is brown, younger, darker, and younger, and is as white. And so this is the guy that you want to get the vote out. I mean, it was like
to modernize your party.
Yes.
Brilliant.
So let's talk about.
Luckily, that's changed.
Yeah. Luckily we have a new state chairperson.
And she's wonderful.
Yes, she's wonderful. And now we just got to kind of fix some of the counties because they still have kind of the old, I call them plantation Democrats.
Old school.
Very old school. You know, they're not, they don't have the skills.
That's a whole different show. That's a whole different show.
So how do you beat some? So let's talk about what are you looking for? And we'll go around here. What are you looking for in someone? And let's just kind of like go from macro. Is it micro to macro? What's the smaller one? Micro. So the macro part of our party has to have a strategy, but at the end of the day, all politics is local. The macro version of it. So let's talk about, like, for an example, this district or Madison Cawthorn's district. How can you beat someone like Dan Bishop? Tell me what you think, how you can beat someone like Dan Bishop. And because I truly believe you don't need millions of dollars. I think Dan McCready proved it. I think Cal Cunningham proved it here in North Carolina. And I think, quite honestly, if anybody who remembers before he became senator, the senator of Georgia, the young man, he ran for Congress and was the highest race in the history of America, and he lost. It doesn't take a lot of money. It takes a lot of things going into place. I think you can do it for under $500,000 here in North Carolina because we're a second tier market. It's expensive to buy ads, but you don't really have to have ads during elections if you have certain things that are important. So let's go around. What are you looking for in someone who is running? Let's just use Dan Bishop, for example. What are you looking for someone who is running against someone like Dan Bishop? Let's go with you, Barbara, then we'll go with you, Jenny. And y'all, let's keep it in 30 seconds because we're going to be running out of time.
Well, I've met Dan Bishop. I'm trying to get rid of all my biases here.
Okay.
What I would like to see, since I'm an independent, I think the Democratic Party, I think we went one step into what I think they need to do. They need to get in touch.
Yep.
They seem half a beat off. They aren't in tune to what's really going on, and they need to get tough.
Yeah.
They need to, I don't mean foul mouth or they need, I'm trying to not use my family because it's not very nice, but because I come from a very Democratic family. Sure. I do have a brother and a sister-in-law that are Republicans, but they said, do not go to the dark side, Barb. Okay. And I said, I'm not going there. I'm in the middle and I like being in the middle. But the thing that disappoints me about the Democratic Party is, and we'll just stay local.
Yep.
The few that I've met, they're not outgoing.
Yep.
They seem to be very cliquey. I've met older ones that are in the party, and I don't even want to have anything to do with them. Because really, they're old school. They're snotty. It's cliquey, and I don't understand. It's a party. You're trying to beat the Republicans. What's the matter with you? I think if you had I was disappointed in Cynthia's approach.
Yep.
Didn't see a lot of her, but when I was campaigning for Tira, or electioneering, excuse me, I was with them a lot. And when she spoke very well, but it was all over the place. And she didn't have talking points.
Yep.
Find out what's going on and talk about it. Have a conversation. That's what I liked about Obama. He wouldn't talk at you, he would talk to you. I think Biden's that way too. I have yet to really see a Democrat do that. And that's what I want to see locally, because if you got to have somebody running against these guys. And to me, that's the one thing that I want to see. Be more outgoing, know what the issues are, where you're running. Forget about the national. Let's get it down to local. And have talking points that mean something to somebody.
Exactly.
That's where I am. And I don't care who it is or where you are. If you want people to vote for you, somebody like me, my neighbors will say, well, you know this person, what do you think? And I'll say, well, you don't want to know what I think. But they really do. Well, if you feel that way, why? And I've been out there, not to the extent that you have, but it opened my eyes to a lot of opinions that I had and biases that I had. And I met a lot of really nice people. People that I would have never met before. So for me, it was a very good experience, but I don't see it. And if the Democrats want to win, they got to start from the bottom and grow up. And I'm hoping to God they do, because I don't want to see a lot of Trump replacements all over the place, because then we're in serious trouble. And I remember a couple of shows you said, I was an independent leading Republican. No way in hell.
Sorry.
That's all right. That's all right. Because my family was really thinking that I was doing that. And you don't understand. I know Republicans on a personal level. And if they treat me nice, I like them. That doesn't mean I like their politics. As a person, I like them. Now, after being on this chat with some of them, but I'm entitled to my own opinion, and I will voice it, even though they think I'm a very shy, quiet person, which I am not. So that's what I want to see. And I hope the Democratic Party gets it before 2022, or they're going to lose.
Excellent. Jenny?
All right. You know, if I was going to run against the Dan Bishop or Governor Abbott in Texas, I would pick their three most problematic stances and absolutely roast them on a fire and, you know, attach them to the worst people in history. It's seriously, like, I you know, if I was running against Governor Abbott, because Abbott and Bishop are the same person. And I would go absolutely after the wall stance. I would show little clips of newspaper headlines fading in the back, talking about budget shortfalls. And then I would show the Berlin Wall and go, we've had people in history build walls. We need to build bridges.
Power outage.
You know, it just, and run a series of commercials talking about power outages, underfunded schools. And we have an idiot governor that wants to build a wall that we can't afford. And then talk about, you evoke the communist threat. It just go, this is what the communists did, and attach him to the Berlin Wall and show clips of Kennedy and Reagan and evoke patriotism and go, our Mexican neighbors have always been our friends. We've always had a policy of open door, and it's always worked, and it always will work. And Texans know better, because just nail the kookery of that shit. The same way with Bishop, his bigotry towards the LGBT community, his stances on some of the stuff he has gone on record to say is so ignorant and so whack. He would be so easy to beat if you had a candidate that would be relentless on that. And I mean, I wouldn't have an ad that named him without the words bathroom dance. I would never let up on that. I would take my foot on that accelerator and I would push it through the floor. Because You do not let up on that. You do not. That is who he is. It's in his DNA.
Yep.
We all know why.
Yep.
And the second thing I would do on the positive side, I would evoke hope.
Mm-hmm.
I would evoke the American dream.
Yep.
And I would evoke the fact that we have proven when our government works with the private sector and real Americans, real individuals, we can grow this economy.
Yeah.
The projections for the growth in this economy was 5% at the beginning of the year. Bounce back growth. It's now on pace to do 7%. That is a record bounce back after a recession. Biden made this country bounce back through his vision of funding things. And how I would run against Dan Bishop is I go, you know what? Y'all had that chance.
Yep.
You had that chance to build this country right. But you refused to help regular everyday Americans in 2017, 2018, 2019, and especially in 2020. You failed us. This is how we win. We partner with the poorest of Americans that really make this country great. And we make sure they have dignity, they have funding, they have access to health care, they have all the things that the wealthiest country on earth should be providing. There's a basic infrastructure. And if you can't do that, quit this job. Get out of here. You're not a real American. And I would go at him and say, if you're not providing it, if you're not giving access for real Americans, I'd keep saying real Americans, regular individual, not the Jeff Bezoses and all the, they got theirs. Regular working class people, if you're not funding them, if you're not investing into Americans, get the F out of the office. And I'd use the real word on stage. I would be going, you don't belong in that seat. If you want to fund a wall over healthcare, if you want to fund missiles over books, you're fired. And take Bobbert and MTG and all those other wackos that stormed the Capitol with you. And get out of my house. My house.
What's going to happen?
That's how you win.
When Trump gets indicted, these guys are going to run and CYA, and I can't wait to be laughing.
I've got the best. I've got the best lawyers. I'm not going to jail. I've already got it taken care of. It's all good.
Well, okay. Well, you know what's going to happen, Barbara? What's going to happen is Trump is going to find Jesus, and he's going to be forgiven. No. That's usually how Republicans deal with things. When they get caught in a scandal, when something happens, they find Jesus, and then I think you got him confused with TV preachers.
You honestly think Trump has the cojones to do that? He is
absolutely. He worked for a month. I mean, Dan Bishop. We'll talk about Dan Bishop.
He lasted 2 weeks trying to do this sweet.
I mean, Dan Bishop and his family are the most anti-Christian family that we know here in Charlotte-Mecklenburg County. But they run on they're Christian, they're this, and they know how to play the game when needs to be played because Republicans kind of they expect that. But Jenny, go ahead because let me let you finish real quickly.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I was really finished, but
okay.
I think with all these candidates, you take the biggest card they run on, which is patriotism and love of our country, and you use it against them. Because if you don't fund real Americans, who are you for? Because you've got to pick a side, because we only have to spend a certain amount of money. Are you for funding large corporations and tax breaks for large corporations that don't need it, high wealth individuals? Or are you willing to fund people? We got people dropping out of college because they can't afford the interest on the student loans. You can move to Germany. I can move to Germany as a non-citizen, which is another high wealth country. I don't have to be a German citizen, and I can go to their colleges for free.
That's right.
I will get health care. I'll get free college. And I can stay there for 4 years, graduate, and come back to the United States. No harm, no foul.
You can do that in England.
Most of Europe is that way. They have, Germany, I think, has an $18 or $20 an hour minimum wage. and they're the most dynamic force in the EU. They're one of the driving forces of the EU. And if they can do it, why can't we? Why don't we have things like a livable wage and a UBI and healthcare and free college? How in the hell does all these countries in Europe do it, and we don't?
Hey, Jenny,
we should demand answers as a candidate.
Sure. Jen, I need to interrupt you just to let our viewers know that we are going to go over just a little bit. We do value your time, so we are going over just a little bit. So if you have to watch us later, you can stop and then watch us later, but we're going to continue if you guys don't mind, because we did start this kind of a little late to talk. We were so enthralled by the other topics. But so Jenny, everyone has some very good points. So I did tease, as we always do on this show, which is why we know Dan Bishop and his staff are going to be watching this later. We did tease that we would actually give the strategies on how to beat someone like Dan Bishop. We're not going to do that. We would not, we would always tease, but we're not going to do that. Jenny and I and Barbara would be happy to sit down with candidates on what we have seen from our experiences. And, but you don't want to give all your secrets away, but you do always want to tease. I will say one of the first things that a candidate has to do when you make the decision to run for office in a district like this is get to know your district. And it's not something that you can do during your campaign. It's something you need to do before. So like whenever, yeah, exactly. Because you are applying for a job against someone who is probably better at that job at the time. Dan Bishop is really good at what he does. I don't like him. I think he's a dick. I think he's a racist. I think he's a white nationalist, a white supremacist.
Well, we do need to qualify what you said. He's really good for running office.
Yes.
He sucks at his job.
No, exactly.
He's horrific at his job.
No,
the actual job he's supposed to be doing.
Jenny, so we all know people who are good interviewers, but they're terrible employees.
Right. But we do need to clarify that because you said he's doing his job. He's not good at his job. He's good at running for office and getting the job.
So one of the things, not only know your district, and you do that, if you're a Democrat, you really need to get involved in organizations about a year before to find out what people are thinking. A red light for anyone who is trying to support a candidate is don't support someone who says, I'm going to do a 100-county tour to find out what's important to North Carolina. If you don't know that when you apply, when you decide to run, what makes you think, that is so, anyone like Dan McCready said that too. I want to hear what you have to, I want to hear what's important to North Carolina District 9. You should know that before you decided to apply. And that may be a cute talking point in Charlotte, but believe me, rural voters roll their eyes and go, another privileged, rich white guy who doesn't really understand us.
And I was on the Beto campaign when he ran in Texas.
Yep.
And he came through Amarillo and the Panhandle 4 or 5 times over about a 1.5-year period. But his wasn't really a listening tour. He built it more as like, I want to be seen in every county because my opponent will not.
Exactly.
My opponent will not do the work.
Exactly.
And so he was campaigning. He made it be known. I know what Texas needs.
Yeah.
Here's my points. And he laid them out very succinctly. And it was one of the reasons he almost won. He was the most successful Democratic Senate candidate in 25 years.
Sure.
He came within 800,000 votes of winning, which it's always been a spread of millions.
Sure.
So he energized the Democrats in Texas in many ways, which did help them win a lot of important races in 2018 when he ran.
Sure.
But he did not run the way Jeff Jackson is running. So let's say who we're talking about, which is Jeff Jackson doing his
that's listening to her. Yeah. So hold on, Jenny.
That can come off as condescending.
Yes.
And come off as something that is
a gimmick.
And again, I don't think Jeff Jackson purposely did it. I just think he doesn't. I think he took part of Beto's strategy, which again, he's not Beto.
Yes.
So, and it's not to mean that he's not a good candidate. Yeah. What I am saying is that Beto was a a 4-time elected House of Representatives
yes
person. He'd been in office for 4 terms.
Yes.
Out of El Paso, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
So he'd already been in Congress. So he knew what it took to be in Congress. He knew what it took to lead in Texas because he was on I believe the city council for 3 or 4 terms of El Paso before that. So he had won multiple offices. Now this was his first statewide office that he was running for.
Well, Jenny, Jenny, let me cut you short because I want to finish this because we need to wrap up.
Yeah, no, go for it.
Yeah. So the person needs to know the district. What's really, really important, if you're going to run against someone like Marjorie Taylor Greene or whatever, you have to run like them. You can't beat someone. You can't run against someone like Dan Bishop as a Democrat. You have to run like a Republican against Dan Bishop. What I mean by that is you can't be afraid to win. You can't be, you have to go into it saying, I'm going to do, because this is what they do. I'm going to do what it takes to win, because if I don't win, I can't talk about the issues that are important to you. And we run on policy. People don't care about policy in certain times of their life. They care about if there's someone who's going to stand up and fight for me. And that's why there's this mystery about how can someone like Dan Bishop win? Why? Because people hate him in the rural area. They think he's a dick. They think he's a racist, but they know he's going to speak his mind in Congress, which he does. He plays that part. But Dan Bishop is also very well organized. If you guys remember, we went to the Republican primary debates and his whole selling point had nothing to do with policy. Right. He is, I'm better organized than Stony Rushing and so forth. And he understands the benefit of being organized. So as a Democrat, that's something that we automatically have. What we've missed is the person who is willing to say, to Jenny's point, to everyone else's point, run to win and say, these are the things that people hate about Dan Bishop. He's a white supremacist. His son is an activist. He's a crazy pro-life activist. He is a bigot. All these things. He's bathroom Dan. Don't be afraid to use those terms because they bank on a Democrat going, I don't want to run that way. I want to run nice. And they know that they usually have succeeded. Yeah. And that was one of the things that I learned from 2016. The 2018 was an anomaly. I only ran because Dan McCready to me was just a terrible, terrible person. As far as not a person, but as far as a candidate. In my view. And Cynthia Wallace to me was a good candidate. She was organized, but she didn't have. I don't know. She was listening to individuals that wanted her to be kind of like Dan McCready, but also kind of be like herself. There was no I
didn't get a message from her.
Yeah, it was like, okay, yeah, she's she was too afraid.
So I think there's one thing that you kind of danced around, Christian, is that Republicans do talk about policy, but they talk about it in a way that's very superficial.
Yes.
And they also tie it to a very emotional driven response. So they're very good at tying things to patriotism, to I'm the one that's going to protect you. I'm the one that's going to, fear, whatever it is, but they draw emotion, whether they appeal to greed, whether they appeal to fear, whatever it is, in very simplistic terms. So and also the successful Democrats also do that. So Obama and Clinton, Bill Clinton, not Hillary, but Bill Clinton, both had very simplistic messages. Bill's was, I feel your pain. It's the economy, stupid. Obama's was the audacity of hope. And very simplistic. Obama's, papers that he wrote and all the policy stuff outside of the campaigning. So successful candidates, Democrat or Republican, know how to separate the candidate from the policymaker. And when they're on the campaign trail, you got to be the candidate. You got to be the salesperson. You got to be your own advocate and cheerleader. And then when you're in office, then you become the office holder and you do the things you're supposed to do.
No,
but when you go on the campaign trail,
sure.
You better be ready to stoke that fire. You better be able to take on people. You know, Obama didn't let up on either one of his rivals in the Republican Party in 2008. Or, you know, he didn't soft pedal them. He didn't insult them, but he was aggressive.
Yeah,
and I was the same way.
Sure, and I agree with you, Jenny. And I think one of the disadvantages. Well, quite honestly, I think Dan Bishop has a lot of disadvantages right now, especially now compared to when he first took office. One of the disadvantages he has is he now has a record. It is very difficult to defend a record when you have a terrible record. So basically because this is really a job. I mean, even with all the emotions and all the things you really, I mean, at the end of the day, Dan Bishop's not going to convince any progressive to vote for him. And we are not going to convince any Dan Bishop followers or Trump followers to vote for us or vote for a Democratic candidate. It's not going to happen. The people you want to talk to, I agree, is in the middle. So you have to run a 3-pronged campaign. You have to always placate your base, which Dan Bishop does every day to keep them excited to continue to follow him. Dan Bishop, his strategy is he doesn't care about the middle upsetting someone like Barbara because he is banking on the Democrat not carrying their base. And if the Democrat doesn't carry their base, he doesn't have to really worry. He hopes that they continue to be fractured. Had Cynthia Wallace, woulda, coulda, shoulda, or even Dan McCready, or even me, I didn't know at the time better, so to speak. Had Cynthia Wallace called the last 3 candidates that ran in that district, Jennifer Roberts, Dan McCready, myself, into a room and said, tell me what worked and tell me what didn't. Democrats have a chip on the shoulder. They're afraid to ask each other for help. I don't care how much Dan McCready and I, or he doesn't like me. I don't dislike him personally. But had Dan McCready just called us and said, Christian, tell us how you won Robeson County, the largest Democratic county. I won 3 counties. How did you win the Lumbee tribe? How did you almost win Fayetteville? How did you win Anson County? Tell me what worked. Tell me what. Had you just done that, he would have won a lot of those voters that didn't like him because we said he hasn't even reached out to us. And that is the arrogance will kill you as a candidate. Pride and arrogance will kill you. You have to swallow your pride and you have to say, it's not about me, even though it is many times for many candidates. It's about if and truly you want to win this, you have to swallow that pride and you have to.
But don't you think a lot of people, a lot of candidates get confused the difference between confidence and maybe even a little bit of swagger?
Yes.
And egotistical rant.
Yes.
So very few people can pull off an egotistical rant. Trump was an exception. He was an exceptional candidate in that way. But most candidates need a little bit of humility. Reagan did it all the time. His self-deprecating humor was legendary. He won the 1984 re-election off one line in the Mondale, Reagan debates, because his first debate performance was so awful. People were thinking he's lost it. And in the second debate, his age came up. Mondale brought it up. And Reagan, you just looked in the camera in Reagan fashion. And even though he was an evil bastard, he was a great campaigner. He just said, I won't, if you won't make fun of my age and senility, I won't make fun of your youth and inexperience.
But I think, Jenny,
the campaign was over there because he self-deprecated himself in a very humorous way. But then he also pointed out the fact that Mondale's never been president, it was only a 4-year vice president without even saying it. Just boom, just walked away.
So Jenny, you hit the nail right on the head again. And like, we won't give complete strategy away, but I will say that one of the problems with individuals who have run against Dan Bishop and even myself is we've never been elected before. And quite honestly, it's a job and you need some experience before you apply for that job. How you overcome that lack of experience is you have to humble yourself and you have to ask for help. You have to say from other individuals who've gone through this job interview, help me with my job interview. What can I do? And you have to have the skill set to be able to pivot when needed. You're gonna run against Dan Bishop and his white supremacy and send out mail drops and so forth. You have to know your audience. When you're in front of someone like Barbara, she may not want to hear that. She may want to hear more policy things and so forth. When you're in front of Jenny and I want you to say, Dan Bishop's a bigot. His son is a bigot. His wife is a bigot.
But I think you can do both.
You can.
I think as long as you're focused and succinct, I think the issue is, and this is always going to be the issue, the moment most people run off sound bites, even when you go to sit and watch a policy. And Barbara said it without probably saying it. Cynthia Wallace is a very intelligent woman, a very good candidate. But her message did not track well because it was not succinct. It never got to the point. And she didn't run on any talking points that made that ever resonated with people. And people have got to have something to grab onto.
Exactly. Even if it's bad.
Even if it's bad. Even if it's bad. Even if it's you're running on the fact that we need to build a wall around South Carolina. I don't think we need to build a wall around, for between here and Mexico. I think we need to build it around South Carolina personally. I'm just kidding. People in South Carolina, don't send me a bomb, but
or a can of beans.
Or a can of beans, that's a whole different topic. But I think when people can't track, because most people are simplistic. Social media proves that.
Yes.
Social media, especially the Twitter, you got a certain amount of words, a certain amount of characters that you can put in there, but people live and die off that. And when you can get a succinct message and you can tie certain emotional things to certain talking points or issues and make it resonate with people where they go, there was a comedian called Jim Jeffries. He's still around. He's an Australian comedian. He was talking about the Trump election in 2016. And he said the reason why people like Trump is because they felt like he was a straight shooter. He had very simplistic, very sophomoric.
And that is, sure.
But he evoked emotion, like making America great again. As evil as he is.
And Jenny, that's what
theme was gold. I mean, it was campaign gold. Like, I mean, those little red little MAGA hats, people just ate that shit up, and they just bought their little Dakota rings. And they run around with their little red and MAGA, deal. So, but a Democrat can do that too, because I remember in 2008 when Obama ran in the primary against Hillary, and then ran for president, and I understood Obama's message very, very clearly. And Hillary, not so much. And then she had that same problem in 2016. Her central themes were
message in 2016. Nothing.
Correct. She did, but it was so murky and so nebulous, and so just people just like, is she just really running because she's first lady?
Hey, Jenny, I have a question for both of you.
Sure.
Correct.
Is truth going to come up in 2022? Are people going to talk about, are you telling the truth?
Okay, Jenny, answer that in 30 seconds because we're going really, really long. So, Jenny, 30 seconds.
Truth never matters. So it won't happen. Remember, I did not have sexual relations with that woman. And so both sides are going to put their best foot forward, and that's what you do in sales. So truth does not matter.
Okay. I will agree with that. I believe we're in a time period where we have this vision of how we want people to run for office, but then we have another way we vote for people. And we say we want someone like this, but we really are inspired by the person that's willing to stand up for us and do this. And we're in this really unique thing. I personally believe that social media is an advantage because, like Jenny said, we see how simple people think. And it doesn't take a a survey to want to know what people are thinking, you can just go overnight and find out instantly what they're thinking. They will tell us what they're thinking about this show.
I don't believe that truth ever mattered in politics. I think mudslinging was done in 1860 and the Lincoln Douglas candidacies just as much as it did in 1960 or 2060. It just the delivery of the message may have went from newsprint to the social media Google machine. The technology's changed, but people are people. People are selfish. All people are selfish.
Yep.
So you got to appeal to their self-interest. Like,
but I do think,
what are you going to, help me, help you, help me. The old Jerry Maguire line. Like you have to convince. When you're interviewing for this job, you're talking to your employers, your constituents, and you are trying to tell them, this is why you need to put my butt in that seat. But everybody has self-interest, and when they felt 7 million more Americans felt that Biden was going to help them, and that Trump just kind of sat on his hands, and that's why Trump lost, was because everybody felt that a lot of people felt that Trump just didn't do enough to help us.
He abandoned us. Yeah,
exactly.
And it resonated.
So there is no secret to beating someone. I do think, but I think it does take. You just have to know the job you're applying for. You have to know who your competition is, and you have to not be willing. You have to be willing to win. And that's what you can't be ashamed of doing that. You have to be willing to, and that's really what we need, someone who is going to run against someone like Dan Bishop, who is all he wants to do is win. Because frankly, Dan Bishop doesn't really have a lot of skill set other than maybe his law, the thing he does and after this, he probably won't be able to get on with a really good law firm, maybe a right-wing law firm. But really his skill set is this, and that's it. That's really it. We need someone who is willing to come in here or come in and run against Dan Bishop and go after him on the things that don't work and then share what they can do differently. Now he has a record. You have to tell people in his district, Lumbee tribe, what has he actually done for you? Is Highway 74 any better? Is there funding coming to this district than it was before? That wasn't before. Union County, what has he done for you? He talks about Donald Trump 80% of the time on social media, and his district maybe 10% of the time.
And that's what who's he working for? Donald Trump.
Exactly. That was one of the things.
Super simple messages.
Very simple.
And even when he ran the first time, you still could have pulled in the imagery of the bathroom bill and all that. And you could pull some. It was
never mentioned in any of those debates.
Right. Yeah. Because Dan McCready didn't want to do that.
It was a silly.
Herein lies the issue. If you've got a past, and Dan Bishop had a past before he was in the House, but now that he has the House too, so he has a track record of bigotry and missteps and bad allegiances, and you expose that in simplistic ways. You run a commercial that says, who does Dan Bishop work for?
Don't say anymore, Jenny. Don't say anymore.
Yeah. Well.
No, I mean, the person that needs to listen to the show is the people that are planning on running against the pool.
Right.
But I think
they can't refute that. Like you can't, as a candidate, his record is his record.
But I do think
no matter what they say, you just keep hammering. But I do think
that it's possible, and this is kind of what the gist of our show was, and we've run out of time already. We're actually over, but we've run out of the overtime. One of the things, I do believe that you can beat someone like Dan Bishop, and definitely Gomer, because he's from East Texas, and even Marjorie Taylor Greene, even though she's in outside of Atlanta area market. I believe you can beat someone like that for under $500,000. I believe you won't be able to do any news media, any television ads. But what we have found over the last several election cycles, our television ads don't really sway anyone. It makes the candidate feel It makes, if you're voting for Dan McCready or Dan Bishop, it makes you go, but quite honestly, it doesn't really swing anyone anymore. And there's so many of them now that there's other ways that you can impact a viewer, a voter. Mail drops, you want to do them early. Our party should be doing mail drops, and I believe they will be very, very soon. I don't want to give anything away. Mail drops to people about Dan Bishop, about his connection to Donald Trump, about his connection to Matt Gaetz, about his connection to all the crazy people. Dan Bishop, you got to use the same imagery that Dan Bishop has used against other people. Dan Bishop is surrounded by clowns. Dan Bishop is a clown. Yeah.
I think there's no secret sauce to beating any candidate, whether they're Democrat or Republican.
Yeah.
But obviously the candidate that stays on point, that I think Barbara's best point about what not to do is don't have a message, have a definable, discernible message, take a stand on the most important issues of the day and that are important to that area, which honestly, I could run in Texas, I could run in here, I could run in Oregon. And a lot of the central baseline message needs are the same everywhere. There's some core things that you expect out of somebody that's going to be going to Congress that's being ignored by Republicans. So I would, obviously I'd run as a Democrat. There's just some baseline needs that have been ignored the whole 21st century for the last 20 years that would just be like a Gatling gun of issues. I would just completely repeat those constantly, like on a little stereophonic thing. Even when I'm talking, I would just like to go, and they would get sick of hearing those 3 or 4 very important positions.
Sure.
That people go, gosh, I'm tired of this woman saying this.
Sure.
But I think that's how you have to run, is be almost robotic, because I looked on Dan Bishop's Twitter feed while we were talking, and he's saying the same things over and over again.
Of course he is.
Because
it's very,
it works.
very simple.
But
it works. It works.
And whether that's the way you got to run.
Exactly. And I completely agree. And without giving it away anymore, from an organizational standpoint, if I were a Democrat running in 2022, I would hire someone who knows what they're doing as far as a campaign manager. And I mean, know what you're doing, not necessarily as far as messaging, because that's not the campaign manager's job. A campaign manager's job is to manage the campaign, the organization. There's some really good people who are good organizers. You should never see a campaign manager. A campaign manager, like a restaurant manager, you should never see that person. They're doing all the things in the background to put the candidate out front. So when you see candidates with their campaign manager next to them, you almost want to say, why are you with the person? Now, a candidate needs what we call a body person. It's a person who travels with the candidate, because you need that individual. It shouldn't be the campaign manager. It should be a intern or someone who's doing, and they should be professionally dressed, because you're on stage. It's an image that you're selling. They should be professionally dressed. Because as soon as you walk in, everyone's seeing you, and it shouldn't be a lot of people. One of Dan McCready's biggest mistakes is he traveled with a big entourage of people, videographer, and Jeff Jackson does the same thing. He thinks he's like the Rolling Stones, and that may work for him because it makes him feel important. But imagine the voters when you're walking in. It's like, what? It's a turnoff for a lot of individuals.
Well, I think with anything that you do in marketing, which a campaign is a marketing campaign, is you always go back, or in sales in general, is the old adage, the KISS method: keep it simple, stupid. A clean, concise, whether it's a postcard being sent out, a TV ad, a stump speech, a Zoom town hall, whatever it is keep it simple, stupid.
Exactly.
And when people can easily access your thought process as a salesperson. So whenever I did a sales presentation, my words were very managed, unlike my on-air personality where I ramble and say crazy stuff.
Yeah, keep it simple.
So my sales presentation, when I'm trying to get somebody to buy a luxury item, or a package deal or something, very succinct, very razor sharp, asked very key component questions at key times. That was it.
Yeah.
And I let them buy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in Canada, it's the same way. Let people buy you. Let people buy into your message. Let them feel good about your message, that it resonates. And Trump does have Trump had a very good way of making people feel good about themselves, feel patriotic. And so the one thing I did appreciate about his campaign, and it's going to be one of the few times I'm ever going to compliment Trump, I do believe there's nothing wrong with patriotism in a national campaign, whether it's for House of Representatives, Senate, U.S. Senate, or the presidency. I think appealing to a source of patriotism that's not based in racism, but actually legit patriotism, can be very powerful. I think it's very smart. I think it's good to make people feel good about their country and proud of North Carolina, for example. If you're going to represent North Carolina District 9, I think making people proud of that being in that district, there's nothing wrong with that, as long as you're not excluding people.
Exactly. So I think what we're saying is, if you watch this show, or if you're going to watch this show later, and you thought we would give you all the strategy and details, we're not. But we are telling you.
No, you got to pay the $450,000, and we'll give it to you.
You got to pay the $500,000.
And we'll throw in a set of ninja knives. We have some knives that look like guns and some guns that look like knives. If you call now, you get a package deal.
But I do think what this conversation is highlighting is the general agreement between, let's just say Democrats, because I'm a Democrat, Jenny's a Democrat. I know you're not, Barbara, but from us, the general agreement is there's a reason why someone like Dan Bishop wins in the race that he wins. And I don't think it's that rocket science or whatever. I do think that there's a reason why, and the Democrats have to run to win. And you have to, there's nothing wrong with taking some great ideas from Dan Bishop and his philosophy and how he does things. I mean, and that's really, I mean, it's politics is a sport. I mean, and not a great sport, but it's a sport. And you have to do your research. You have to figure out what some of the things are. We do know that Dan Bishop can be triggered. He's triggered a lot. And if he's not triggered, you can trigger his son. His son should be called Jack Trigger. I mean, that's what, just like the horse Trigger. I mean, they are triggered when you have arrogant people like that. Their ego gets in the way and they can be triggered. And Dan Bishop, you saw that when he ran the first time, when he was running against Robert Pittenger. I'm sorry, when he was running for the nominee, and Matthew Ridenhour got the endorsement of Robert Pittenger. And Robert Pittenger said something very simple like, well, Dan Bishop supported this or didn't support this. And Dan Bishop immediately, within 24 hours, threatened to sue Congressman Robert Pittenger, saying that he was libeling him or slandering him or whatever. And he should have done it, but Robert Pittenger backed off and took it back. And it showed you that Dan Bishop can be triggered. And it was so unfortunate that Matthew Ridenhour or Stoney Rushy didn't take advantage of that. That showed you how unhinged Dan Bishop is. And he is going to be he's going to be triggered. He's going to throw everything at you before you can throw it back at him. And in politics, if you're defending yourself, you're losing. And Dan Bishop knows that if he throws things at someone first, they spend the time defending. You have to have the ability to absorb it, deflect it, and throw things back at him and say to himself, why are you so homophobic? What is it in your life that occurred that made you so homophobic? Why is your son so radical? Because he throws his son out. I don't believe you should put family members, but he runs on his son. He runs on that. That's his message. And you have to throw those things. If you're so religious, why are you so against people of faith becoming citizens of the United States? These are things that you have to, if you're not a white supremacist, why have you only supported white supremacists? These are things that you have to ask these kind of questions. And I do think that that's how you beat someone like Marjorie Taylor Greene, is just throw those things back in the face of them. And when they talk about things like cancel culture and woke and these other taglines they're using, take advantage of that. We know that the people that are leaving the Republican Party are educated suburban white women and educated men. Take advantage of the critical race theory thinking. Tell these educated people. Yeah, you have to tell educated people, why are you against critical thinking? That's education, you know,
but I think
and
also
you have
too,
to turn it. Go ahead, Jenny, 30
using,
seconds because we got to close.
Yeah, I think it's the same way, you know, a voter like Barb, for example, you know, said it all. You know, I'm an independent that's progressive leaning, and I want to hear the things to make me go that way and vote for a specific candidate. And I'm listening with intent. And so for many people, especially women, they want to hear the most important things. We're listening for very specific things when you're applying for that job. And that's, you know, and I think in this modern era where women are becoming more and more involved in politics on the voting end and activism end, especially, I think our vote matters. I think that's why you're seeing more successful female candidates. And I think that's how you get the middle, the independence to sway your way.
Go ahead.
And I know Barbara's got something to say.
Go ahead.
When I was electioneering for Ed, because I really believe that our city council needs balance. We need Republicans and we need Democrats. Ed
Amen.
is a conservative. He cares about money. He wants to know how things are going to get paid for. That's what he did for a living. He's a nice man.
Yep.
And he's not afraid to tell people, you're not going to do that at my meeting. So he's, and that's why I like Ed. I don't know Torek very well, but that's why I chose Ed. When I was campaigning for him, I had a couple of people walked away to go do something. And I have all these brochures from other people. And in one hand, I had Ed, and the other hand, I had Dan Bishop. I had my head ripped off by women about Dan Bishop. I said, I'm not voting for him. I'm just holding brochures till the other guy comes back. And oh, okay. But I mean, one of them was just like nose to nose with me. And I'm like, holy God, you know, I've never experienced that before.
Barbara, I think what we've been talking about for the last 90 minutes, you summed up in almost 2 minutes. And if anyone really listened to what Barbara said, that is really the secret to beating someone like Dan Bishop. And if you think about how I made mistakes, or how Cynthia Wallace made mistakes, and how Dan McCready, who is the biggest mistake because of the amount of money that was spent, quite honestly, mistake, she gave the secret sauce there. And basically, if you heard what she said, individuals like Barbara, Dan McCready and Cynthia Wallace, and even me, spent so much effort trying to attract someone like Barbara. Dan Bishop is not really trying to attract someone like Barbara. And the reason he's not trying to attract someone like Barbara right now is because Democrats can't hang on to their base. So it didn't make any difference whether Dan McCready won white women or won suburban Union County or the ND9 ladies. It didn't make any difference whether he won them if he couldn't win his base. Because if you can't bring your base to the table, it doesn't make any difference how many middle people you brought. And so one of the things that the things I was curious about Cynthia Wallace is she was focusing on the same kind of group that Dan McCready was kind of going on. But then she went after rural voters as well, which is a wonderful thing. But she couldn't do something so simple as support Medicare for all. What she didn't understand was this miscalculation. If you support Medicare for all, you're not going to lose someone like Barbara. Because she's not going to vote for Dan Bishop regardless. It doesn't make any difference. But you may carry your base with you. And so their thinking is, if I support Medicare for all, I'm going to lose the middle. No, right now, people hate Trump. People hate Dan Bishop. You could support, they hate them more than they hate Medicare for all. And so you have to understand that Dan Bishop's negatives are so strong that if you don't bring your base along, it doesn't make any difference if you bring the middle along. You can't win without that base. And so you have to be able to support those progressive things, but also bring the middle people along. And someone like Dan Bishop, now, if it was someone like maybe Matthew Reidenhauer, who is not so, right-wing, so to speak, maybe you have to be careful not to carry your base because some of his base may not come along with him either. And so I do think what you said, Barbara, is really what we should be listening to, because we don't know what the new district is going to be. We do know that the Dan Bishop's district will go around him. So it will include some of Charlotte, whether it includes Union County. We don't really know that. We know he's probably going to lose Robeson County. He's probably going to lose Scotland County, some of those areas. So he doesn't have to worry about the Lumbee tribe anymore. He's been pandering to them. And so I do think that once these districts get redone and you look at these kind of things, the candidate has to understand this district. And it doesn't take that hard because we all live in this region, but you have to be willing to go after Dan Bishop. And I do think what you said there is, it didn't hit me until after you started saying it, that is really the key to how you can actually beat someone like Dan Bishop. So we need to wrap up because we've gone over.
By 40 minutes.
By a lot. So
I don't know how we did that with just 3 people too.
We always do that with fewer people. And so listen, if you do watch this show later, I'm sorry that we didn't give away the deep secrets. We won't give those away, but we do talk amongst each other about some things. And we have candidates that we know will be talking with us, and we'll be happy to share with them. But at the end of the day, you are applying for a job, and please take the job seriously. And I do think there are some really good candidates that are going to be coming out of this. But I agree with Barbara. I do think that after 9/11, we had a slew of candidates with military background. That was just kind of what happened. After January 6th, we're going to have a slew of candidates that have more law enforcement kind of background, focusing on crime, focusing on these things. Doesn't mean they're going to be great candidates, but we're going to have those candidates. They're going to be like the Dan McCready's and the Jeff Jacksons of the new era. We're going to have a lot of those candidates starting to run for office. And we'll see how if they turn into those kind of people, or if they turn into really good candidates. So anywho, let's go around the Brady Bunch screen. Tell us where you're going to be in 30 seconds or less, because we have gone way over. We'll start. Let's go Barbara, Jenny, this time. Go ahead, Barbara.
I'm going to be up in Winston-Salem. I'm working, doing my organizing work again, and I'm helping a family that desperately needs some help 2 days a week. It's a long drive, and I need the next day to recover.
Well, mine's real simple. I have a thing with Charlotte Pride for the Time Out Youth kids. We're doing a screening of a couple of films at the Pride headquarters just to give them a nice summer free outing. So we're organizing that and doing that Friday night. And then Saturday, I'm doing the fundraising beer pong tournament for our local rugby team. I'm super excited about that. We did really well last time, and Christian is my partner on that, and we've got a team going, and it's going to be pretty hilarious. It's always a good time, and so it's held at the Sidelines Sports Bar. It is going to be hopefully as fun as it was last time. It always is a good time at Sidelines, and the rugby team is very gracious and a lot of fun to be around.
I just need to say one more thing.
Sure.
I've known you, what now, 2 years, Jenny?
Mm-hmm.
I have heard more excitement about Pride this year than any other time. And I ask people, why do you know about that? Listen to what they're trying to do. I'm against that. So whatever you guys are doing, you're doing the right thing, because I've heard it from people that surprised me. So I just thought you should know that.
Thank you.
Wow, that's great. That's great feedback. Well, listen, I want to thank everyone who's joined us on this very, very long show, but it was fun for us. So, or at least we'll be back next week. Next Wednesday, our show will be about Who is America. It'll be our July 4th show. And then we go into July, where each of us are taking a show and coming up with our own topics. So that should be exciting for the month of July. Mama Ruth, we hope you feel better, and we'll be seeing Mama Ruth next week. And hopefully Stephen DeFiore, we'll be seeing him soon. I know he's got some scheduling conflicts, but we do miss you, Stephen, and your humor. This show would have gone so much faster with both of y'all on it. And also Raphael.
And on that note.
Yeah, that's right. So let's go. Let's end on this music and stay on Zoom so we can do it. Bye, y'all. All right. Hold on a second.
Like the old vaudeville thing. I just got the hook. Now you got to pull Chris.